Like his first for real movie, because
Nobody remembers
nobody,
that.
nobody wants to talk about Piranha 2.
Welcome to the 611 Films podcast. My name is David Groves, and with me as always,
Neil McKay, what is happening?
what's going on, man? Talking about James Cameron, the man, the myth, the legend. Over $2 billion, Avatar 2. He did it. He's making it happen again.
Wasn't there some article like where they were predicting it was going to be an epic failure, and it was like, nope, it's just all he does is make money with these movies.
Yeah, I mean, you'd figure again with the TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat world we live in, a 3.5 hour movie, people would be like, I can wait for that. I can wait. But now, I mean, people are going to the theaters. They want to see it on the big screen.
Damn, man, that's crazy. You definitely. I guess in today's world too, there were like websites that tell you like when you can go take a pee break and stuff.
Yeah,
because there's no way you're sitting through that without.
He said in an article too, which is funny. He's like, yeah, well, when they know when you go and go to the bathroom, so when you see it for the second time in the theater, you won't miss that part.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, I don't know if it's exactly the epicness that Titanic was, where people were seeing it in the theater 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, yeah, it's definitely saved the idea or the notion. I mean, they already have 3 in the can and they're still doing the post. Mm-hmm. But this was more or less like, if we don't even crack like 1.2 or 1.3 billion, that puts 4 or 5, like he's doing a ton of these obviously, but that puts those in jeopardy.
I mean,
but since he did hit the 2 billion, it's like, okay, we're good for 3 and 4 now.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is definitely like the green light for more of them. How long was the first one? Was that like 3 hours, or was that like 2?
I have to imagine that was also at least 2.5 into 3 hours for sure.
Okay, and
I remember seeing that with the 3D glasses, and 30 minutes into it, I was like, I got a headache. And I won't say that sort of deters the Avatar. I personally, since that is kind of why we're doing the top, like our 3 scenes for James Cameron, but at the same time, I was like, I'm not the biggest fan. I haven't seen 2 yet. I don't know if you have.
No, I was going to say, I haven't seen the new. I mean, I've seen the first one, obviously, but I haven't seen the new one. I think we have talked about the original one. I think I'm more. I mean, some people like it's like a religion to them. I mean, they went like ape shit, and I'm like, I'm not quite there. I liked it, I think, more than you did, but I wasn't like, oh my god, it's the greatest thing in the world. I mean, it was pretty cool, but
right.
But I would definitely see the second one for sure.
I would definitely see the second one. I think that, sure. But I think at this point in time, the 2D version on my 47-inch or whatever it is television, I would be fine with that.
Would be just
like
fine,
the $20, or some of these people are now doing the 4D experience, the theaters that have the motion, and then like they spray water on you. I heard people have done that, and I was like, that sounds
now you
weird.
got me intrigued. I didn't know they were doing that kind of thing. That would be cool. Like it's almost like an amusement park ride, like the seats.
Yeah, it'd be cool for an amusement park ride that lasts for like 5 to 10 minutes, but for 3 hours, I'd be like, this is a little much.
Sickness.
Exactly.
Oh man. So but I mean, so he's got some hype, obviously with the new Avatar. So we, we're like, oh, we'll do. This is we've done these kinds of episodes before. We did like a top 5 Tarantino scenes or something like that. So we're just picking 3 scenes that we really like from random James Cameron movies, and then we're just talking about it basically. So that's the format of what we're doing.
The format. That's the thing. Yeah. Why don't you start it off?
All right. And I'm kind of going in order. So this would be like my 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
But I'm going to start with what I feel like when you talk about James Cameron and his body of work. This is like the underrated movie that nobody talks about, but it's a really good movie, The Abyss.
Okay, cool.
And I'm going with the water tentacle scene, which everybody, I'm sure, is, once you see it, you're like, oh yeah, I know that. And it's like the water turns into like a snake and makes faces.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, again, it's like sort of like this underrated thing, because you see right there, that was the launching pad for the Terminator 2 liquid metal stuff that they were doing.
Yeah.
Groundbreaking CGI, really like ahead of its time. And I mean, overall, it was just a really cool movie. And you see kind of where he gets into the whole, like, because he really got into like deep sea diving kind of stuff later. Like, wasn't he doing like documentaries, like, where he was going like trying to find like the Titanic and shit like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, he's been on expeditions out there since the movie came out. I mean, he has a fondness for water, ocean, all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
So you kind of see it with this, because this is basically, I think it's like an exploring crew that like goes all the way down to the bottom, of the ocean, and they meet like these extraterrestrials. Really cool movie. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, like, of all the movies that, I mean, obviously there's the big ones that people talk about, but no one really ever talks about that movie. And I'm like, yeah, it was pretty cool. And it had some pretty cool effects and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that you have The Abyss on your list too.
I do. I was going to say too, man, because I think that the biggest thing with his stuff is like James Cameron knocks it out of the park with all of his endings. Like to me, with Terminator, Abyss, Terminator 2, True Lies, Titanic, obviously, like his stuff, he knows how to end a movie. Like that big final 20, 30 minutes of a movie, blockbuster action scenes, like everything I was thinking about was like, oh, that's the end of this. That's the end of this. And I will have that. But it's like, I was like, what other things has he done? And this with The Abyss is a little bit different, but it is the scene where Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio dies practically, and and Ed Harris is trying to revive her, and everybody's around him, and he's doing CPR, and he's trying to and their relationship was like, I guess they were married and sort of on the fritz or divorced, but there was still that connection with each other. And I thought it was such a great, well-acted scene where it's like she pretty much dies. And everybody's like, get off her. And Ed Harris literally just starts pounding her on the chest. And it's like, fight, live. And it was, to me, I remember that scene very well because it's kind of like movies in general. It's that don't give up, keep fighting for things. And it's more of that character-driven scene that Cameron has great actors. He has a lot of great emotional scenes, but that, to me, is like one of the most emotional scenes in any. Obviously, we could say Jack, Rose, Titanic. He did a lot of that, but that was a big one. And I remember going back to that scene and feeling the raw emotion of literally almost bringing her back to life and not giving up. I think that was what was cool about that scene.
Yeah. I mean, now that we're talking about it, I mean, it just is one of those movies that, I mean, I know he's got such an arsenal of like hits, but like that is one of those movies that I'm just like, yeah, people should talk about that more, because that was a really cool movie. And yeah, it had a great ending, and it was like, I mean, it was almost like, it was very, it reminded me of like E.T. and like Close Encounters and like things like that. And if you like that, you'd like this. And then it just, I feel like, like it's just sort of this forgotten movie. Like,
and it has that action. It has the character, he really knows how to put the story together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be curious to see like where that ranks, as far as like the blockbusters, like how much money that made, or because I don't even know. I mean, I don't think it was a bomb. I think it did well. I don't think.
Well, that was in between. Wasn't that more or less kind of, what was that, right before T2?
It was 89. It was, I think it was, I think it was the movie he did before T2, but it was 2 years before.
Right.
I don't think he did anything in between. And I don't know, Aliens was 86 and then this was 89. I don't know if he did anything in between.
Terminator was 84.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Aliens, and then I don't know if he did anything in 87 or 88, but
no. No, it makes sense. Like, he needs that time to do all these effects.
I know, because I mean, I think that scene that I was talking about, or whatever, with the water tentacle thing, I think that took like 6 months in like post production, which is nuts.
Yeah, look at Avatar 2. It took you 13 years to make it up.
I know, right? It's like, man, this takes a while. But speaking of aliens, that is, I feel like Aliens and T2 are going to be like, of course you're going to mention those ones, but yeah, no, it's tough because he's got True Lies and Titanic and all this stuff. But my number 2 is from Aliens, and I actually saw Aliens before I saw the original Alien. Because I think I was like, I don't know, something in the realm of like 8 or 9, 10 years old, something like that. Yeah. And I saw Alien. So of course I don't know like the context of the first one. And I think I was watching with a friend who had seen the first one. And I was very confused with like the Bishop, like the android, like when they do that knife scene and there's like a milky substance coming out of his hand. And I was like, well, what's going on? And they're like, oh, he's an android. That's their blood. And I was asking, like, well, yeah, because Sigourney Weaver was very like, Ripley was like very cold to him. And it was like, oh, because in the first one, the android like betrays the crew and, and this and that. So she doesn't like, robot, AI kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. So this makes sense. And now I'm like, okay, I get it. And then I was kind of like rooting for him throughout the movie. I was like, okay, don't be another shitty robot that's going to betray,
Yeah.
So I was kind of rooting for Lance Henriksen. So we get to the end, and again, I think I'm like 10 years old, so I'm not used to like the psych out like ending kind of like I thought the movie was ending, and it was like, oh, we're resolving everything. Michael Biehn is going to live. He needs a stretcher. They get out. Bishop's like, look, I didn't pick you up in the spot because I had to pick you up here. And then Sigourney Weaver's like, or Ripley's like, yeah, you did good. Like she's like, okay, all right, I can trust in AI and stuff. And I'm just like, cool, that was a great movie. And then all of a sudden, like this thing comes like ripping through his chest. And I was like, what is going on? He's got the blood like spewing out. Then you see the alien behind him, rips him in half. And I was like, oh, like I'd never seen anything like that. And so I was just like, to this day, I was like, that is the coolest thing. It's like the psych out. And then we get into that whole big climax where Ripley fights the mother, the queen alien. So that to me was like, man, that just killed it for me as hey man,
that is my last one. So I knew, and I knew we were gonna hit this one.
That is yours too. Oh, okay.
I have another one prior, but my number 1 was gonna be that. It's not exactly the bit like that is a cool like part of that scene. But I think like her getting into that payload worker machine and the whole like get away from her, you bitch.
Yeah, that's iconic too.
That's iconic.
Right. The whole everything after is awesome. Yeah. Like, she's the way she gets it like in a, spits it out into space and everything.
And that soundtrack, that kind of like the drum up of the everybody looks at Hans Zimmer that like I forget who might have done that score, but I think that's been used so many times, and we couldn't play it on here for copyright stuff, but it's like it's such a build, it's such a cool build for that ending scene for Alien.
It's a great movie, and and we've talked about this before as far as like sequels and stuff. It's one of the few that's like. You can make Alien is a fantastic movie, but you could argue that Aliens is better, and there's not many times you can say something like that.
Yeah, only with Cameron and then with T2 too. But no, to stay on that point, it's like Alien. Just again, the animatronics, the time it took to do all that stuff and make it look amazing.
Yeah,
back in that time, in the 80s and all. And again, that might be a little bit why I'm a little disillusioned. I don't know if disillusion is the right word, but a little bit like with Cameron, it's like everything's computer, everything's, Avatar is very just, you guys have the actors and you're doing a lot of stuff. And I respect that too, but it is sort of, he came in with all these cool visual effects on set and it's slowly morphed into doing just everything in a computer, like obviously with T2 and all that stuff. But that to me is one of the better scenes, like, and as an ending. And again, he knocked it out of the park with that kind of ending.
It was, because before that, it already kind of felt like, oh, that was a satisfying ending, like them getting off the planet before it blew up, and then and, all that other stuff. And I don't know. Now that you got me thinking about the original, like the 80s version versus versus now. Like the recent ones that like Ridley Scott's been doing, the whatever
Prometheus.
Yeah, thank you. Like I don't know if is that all CGI? Like because those look pretty.
No,
good.
I mean I think it's a little both. I mean it's got a little, but you talk about the android stuff, and it's like Michael Fassbender kind of plays also a Bishop type character, and it's sort of like you're trying to go back to do like a prequel. And I've said numerous times on this podcast how I never loved prequels, and if we're here, how did we get here? Sometimes it's cool. Most of the times it's like, but we know what's going to happen. And I don't think they've done that well.
The only time I've ever... No, I agree with you about the whole idea of prequels. It's sort of like why I wasn't ever a big fan of Titanic, is because I was like, I know what's going to happen. Like, boat sinks. Like, spoiler alert. But with prequels, I kind of feel like that too. Like, it's just like, I know. Like, it's kind of cool to see... Like everyone wanted to see the Star Wars prequels because it was like, how does Darth Vader become Darth Vader? Like, stuff like that's kind of cool. But like, it is kind of like, you're like, I'm not surprised by anything. The only time I can think of where like a prequel was like, oh, that was pretty cool was you ever watch that show Fargo?
The FX TV show.
Yeah, the first 2 seasons are amazing, and then it kind of got a little wonky with when Ewan McGregor came in, but for the 3rd season. But anyway, my point is that they did the 2nd season is like, I don't know, 20 years before the 1st season. It has nothing really to do with it, but they did.
Yeah, they're all different stories.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's how that person became that, and then and it was sort of cool, like how they did that, where there was some surprises, even though you kind of knew what was going to happen 20 years in the future. You didn't know, like, some of the ins and outs of how that was going to come.
Yeah. And I think with Ridley Scott doing Prometheus and how the actual, xenomorphs, the aliens really came to be, I think everybody's kind of wanting, okay, that's what we're all waiting for. And it does happen. Spoiler alert. It does kind of happen at the very last shot of the movie. But, we're kind of on a journey of a movie that also was just kind of blah to begin with. It didn't hold its own to then go into sort of the backstory of the xenomorph. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was, I wasn't, I mean, I thought kind of Prometheus was kind of a forgettable, I was just like, okay.
Yeah, it was just kind of blah. It looked good. It shot well. I think the actors were great, but it didn't have that oomph. It didn't have that thing that, again, the whole big story of Alien was it's more of a scarier thriller horror type movie. And Cameron came in, did the whole, the history, just put the S at the end of Alien, and it was a more rambunctious, action-packed movie.
There was a lot of stuff that he did with it that I think was, because it's like, how do you one-up that? And I mean, a lot of people say, oh, just make more of them and make them bigger and, put the S at the end and stuff. But he did like stuff that I thought, I mean, he made it like a more complicated story. Like the whole Paul Reiser character, like is such a like great villain, and like that whole aspect, and then bringing in the kid Newt, and like there was a lot of stuff that he brought in to like, okay, I gotta do more than just make aliens bigger and more of them. I gotta do some other storytelling kind of stuff. So that's why I think that movie is regarded so highly.
Yeah, I think that's true. And again, you take a second and think about that, and it's like, yeah, he is, that sort of mother-daughter sort of relationship with Ripley and Newt, and even with True Lies, it's like it's a family dynamic, and they're sort of on the outs, and the daughter's doing this, that. We don't give him maybe enough credit with sort of finding that balance between the characters and just the big rah-rah action craziness that he does so well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like you were saying a second ago about The Abyss. It's like that was just a cool, like he's got those humanity, kind of, moments and the rah-rah and like, the great characters. I mean, that's another thing. Aliens had such great characters with like Bill Paxton character. This is how everyone loves. Game over, man.
Game over, man. Oh yeah, that's that line. If that's line, we might do maybe the best lines of Cameron that you could find us too. He always has great lines.
Bill Paxton has so many in that. Why don't you put her in charge?
I also never saw those movies prior to T2, and I never saw Terminator before I saw T2. That was a movie that I got to watch with my buddy friends on a New Year's party. It's like my top three. It's my third favorite film of all time, and it was like a New Year's thing. Yeah, I've said this probably quite a few times, but I think, and it was like how many scenes in that movie, and the ending is rocking. It's just crazy. I love it, but I take it back to the actual chase scene when he grabs Connor from the mall, the LA Basin River on the motorcycle, and when the T-1000's actually after him, and he gets in a truck, and they're, and it's just this wild, crazy chase scene that I don't think I've really ever seen before. Like, I don't think there's any other movie chasing wise. I mean, I'm sure there is, but that really, it feels real. There's just such a fun aspect to that, and that really sets the tone for the rest of the action sequences.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, we start this.
It was a groundbreaking and incredible, because it was all real. I mean, that's a real truck and a real part of LA and all of that stuff. And I mean the guns, all of it. I mean, there's nothing fake or CGI about that, which was so cool. About what they were doing.
And I just loved it too, like when you got like him like taking the shotgun, flipping it around to like blow out the chains on the fences. It's like, that's the coolest thing. And I mean, he does that so many times in so many movies. Like, he has these moments that are like, as a filmmaker, as us as filmmakers too, it's like, I love that shot. I'll steal that. Take having those really wonderful moments. And then of course, the big thing where it blows up, and then you see the T-1000 like actually come out, and the liquid metal. Like, to me, that's like, wow, what a cool scene.
Yeah, and just the T2 or the T-1000, sorry, is I think one of the coolest like villains I've ever seen. Like, I just love that whole like shape shifting liquid metal like stuff, and it's like, how do you top the original? That's how you bring in an even badder and better Terminator,
a bigger villain. Yeah,
right. And it's just like, wow,
Yeah, it can be a little wonky with those things, because they've definitely jumped the shark with a lot of these Terminator movies for sure. So it's tricky.
I don't think, to me, they stop at 2. Like, there's nothing after that.
That's good. I need to start thinking that way too.
I'm in denial.
Yeah, it's just over. No, it's just
it's sort of like it's sort of like Die Hard. Like, after the third one, that's it. They stop.
Yep, that's it. More. Right, for sure.
So that's kind of cool. We got I think we're saying Abyss, Aliens, and Terminator for all three. The one I'm also picking Terminator, and the first time I saw this scene, it gave me like chills. But it's when Terminator and John Connor go to rescue Sarah, like, from the mental hospital, and she's like, she actually gets away, and then from the orderlies or whatever, and she's waiting for an elevator. She runs in for the elevator, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger comes out, and it's just like they've set her up to be
two peas in a pod, man. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was literally going to use that or this scene you're talking about. I was like,
oh, really? Okay. Well, you already said had the chase.
I know, right? But so. I was flipping, flopping. I was so switcher out. All right, keep going. It's a fun scene.
It was just such a, like, I mean, they built her up to be such a badass, but I mean, at the end of the day, once she comes like face to face with the demon of her past, it's like, I mean, just full blown panic. And her son is like yelling at her, like and she's not even registering until he's actually in her face, like screaming at her. That's like how much she's,
she's just like staring dead eyed at him,
like just the remembering.
He'll kill us all.
Yeah, and I mean there's like 5 people trying to hold her down, and she's just like, and of course you have like the iconic, like, the repeat, like, come with me if you want to live. And then it's like, after everything kind of settles down for a second, then you got, T-1000 coming through, like, just, right through the jail cell, like he's made of water. So the whole thing was just so cool, like how she reunited with John, and like seeing, this guy's not bad, he's good. And now, it was just so cool the way they did it, because it was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I was flipping. I was truly flipping those. I was like, that chase scene is awesome, but that scene too, and it has one of the best shots I think in like people try to mimic this shot with characters like that quick push in on all three of them when she kind of Sarah Connor turns her head and sees the T-1000 and that push in with the three of them. That gives me chills. Like that shot where she notices now there's a bigger, badder danger, like that thing, and then he comes through the actual metal bars.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, and then she joins in the fight, against the thing because she's like, okay, I got to reassess my situation. Everything I know is now different. But it works though, because it's like, I mean, it took her son to like basically grab her and be like, hey, right. And then she even still is like, is this a dream? Like, who are you? How are you alive? Like, what's going on? It's just, right. the whole movie was just filled with like little moments like that, which I thought was
like I said, all the endings. I mean, her doing the shotgun pumps and hitting him, the swell of the music, and then finding out that she's out of shells and that's super fun. And then he shows back up with the M80 grenade. It's like, oh my god, yeah, he is so good. I think at that, like those bigger endings and these climaxes, like that's truly give it to Cameron.
Yeah, there was another one in there that I was kind of like, I mean, I think the one that I with the elevator, like him coming out and everything, is the one for me. But like there was another one that I was kind of thinking about from that movie, and it's when they go to what's his name, Miles something or another,
Dyson.
Dyson, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
when they go to his house and like she's gonna kill him, but like then the Terminator and John Connor kind of like intervene and stuff. But
right,
to get him like to understand what's happening, like when Arnold Schwarzenegger like rips off his arm basically and shows that he's a robot. I thought that was super cool. Like the way they kind of led into it, and then John Connor's like meeting the kid, like, okay, we're show me your comic books or something like that, and it's like, what is going on, But that was another really good
that was a really cool. I mean, and I'm losing his name. It would be on the tip of my tongue. Miles Dyson. He was also in Speed. He's been in tons of stuff.
I know.
His whole thing, like his breathing at the end before he lets go of the bomb that's going to blow up all of Cyberdyne systems. Like, that was such a cool like sequence or scene for him, like acting wise. It was just like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name too. I'm like, what? Because he's been in everything. Like
Joe Morton.
Thank you, Joe Morton. Okay, yeah, all right. Because I was like,
I did.
I was like, we've seen him. Because the other guy, I'm trying to remember his name too. The guy that played the psychiatrist. He just recently passed. Too.
Yeah, he just passed.
But he was great in both of those movies too. And even in that scene we were just talking about, I love how it just cuts to him and the pen just falls. Pen cap falls out of his mouth. Like he's just like, oh.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and everybody, like that scene has kind of like everything, it has the mortified Sarah Connor and just and then he's just, chucking all the orderlies. Well, the whole thing too, you can't kill anybody. At that line too, when he shoots up with the what's it called? The Gatling gun or something. They'll live.
Yeah, right. I don't know, the way he was chucking those orderlies around in the hallway. I don't know. Some of that was like,
I'm sure some of them definitely might have died. You hit a femoral artery with one of those. They don't make it to the hospital.
Right. It's like, yikes.
But no, I think those are cool. But I think too, I mean, obviously we didn't. Titanic still also had. I mean, for different reasons and for the scope that was, and for how big he went, and this was such a gamble. I think I give the guy props, and I'm not the biggest fan of Titanic. I like Titanic. I liked Avatar. I didn't love those. I think his action stuff to me kind of reigned supreme.
I mean, unless you want to get into Piranha 2.
I don't think I've seen Piranha 2.
I have not either. I mean, that was his first movie. I'm sure he wasn't like, this is like put this on my resume kind of thing.
Well, he didn't he come from Corman style or Corman? Like so many people came from Roger Corman. Like he was in the animation or Henson animation. Well, Terminator. Well, that might have been his first, but then Terminator would be. I mean,
Terminator was
Terminator's definitely his first.
That was. I mean, yeah. Okay, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, that was his second movie, but that was like his big, like his first for real movie because nobody
remembers that.
Nobody wants to talk about Piranha 2.
All right, well, there we go. Those are our top 3 scenes, our favorite stuff from James Cameron. Guys, thanks so much for listening and or watching.
See you on the flip side.
Later.